on the morning of what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, a bride vanished. No goodbye, no explanation, no trace. And what the villagers discovered years later would shock everyone. In the quiet village of Umoma, weddings were not just celebrations, they were events the whole community looked forward to. On this particular day, the entire village had gathered to celebrate the marriage of a beautiful young woman named Adaeze. Adaeze was admired by everyone. She was kind, hardworking, and known for her gentle smile. Her groom, Chinedu, was a respected young man who had worked for years to build a successful business in the nearby town. Their love story had been the talk of the village for months. Women had spent days cooking large pots of jollof rice and pepper soup. Drummers were already preparing their instruments. Colorful fabrics decorated the village square. It was going to be a wedding no one would ever forget. But no one expected it to be remembered for a completely different reason. Inside her small family home, Ades was getting ready. Her bridal attire was stunning. Bright coral beads around her neck, beautiful traditional fabrics wrapped perfectly around her body. Her mother adjusted her headpiece with pride. "You look like a queen," she said. Ade smiled. But behind that smile, something was wrong. As the hours passed, the guests continued arriving. The groom waited patiently at the ceremony ground, surrounded by friends and family. The musicians began to play, but the bride never came. At first, people thought she was simply taking longer to prepare. But when her bridesmaids went to check on her room, the door was open. The room was empty. Adaz was gone. Her jewelry was still on the table. Her wedding shoes were untouched, but the bride had vanished. Panic spread through the village. Such parties formed immediately. People searched the forest. They searched the nearby river. They checked every road leading out of the village. But Adaeze had disappeared as if she had simply vanished into the air. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And slowly the village accepted the painful truth. No one knew what had happened to the bride. Some whispered that she had run away. Others believed something terrible had happened to her. But no one had proof. Chinedu never married another woman. Years passed. Life in the village slowly returned to normal. But the story of the missing bride was never forgotten. Then one evening, nearly 20 years later, something unexpected happened. A car drove slowly into the village. People rarely saw cars in Umoma, so villagers gathered curiously to watch. When the door opened, a woman stepped out. She was older now, but her face looked strangely familiar. It was Adaize, the bride who had disappeared on her wedding day. The entire village stood frozen in shock. Where had she been all these years? And why had she left without a word? Adaize gathered the villagers together and finally revealed the truth. On the morning of her wedding, she had discovered a secret about the man she was about to marry, a secret so dark. She knew she could never become his wife. Instead of exposing him publicly and bringing shame to both families, she chose to disappear. She left the village that very morning. Over the years, she built a new life in another city. But one thing never stopped haunting her: the truth. And now, after 20 long years, she had finally returned to reveal it. The villagers listened in stunned silence, because the love story they had celebrated years ago had never truly been what it seemed, and the bride who disappeared had been protecting everyone all along. Sometimes the truth hides for years, but one day it always finds its way back home. The villagers welcomed Adies with so much joy.